You are your own worst enemy. You waste precious time dreaming of the future instead of engaging in the present. Since nothing seems urgent to you, you are only half involved in what you do. The only way to change is through action and outside pressure. Put yourself in situations where you have too much at stake to waste time or resources. If you cannot afford to lose, you won't. Cut your ties to the past, enter unknown territory where you must depend on your wits and energy to see you through. Place yourself on death ground, where your back is against the wall and you have to fight like hell to get out alive. From The 33 Strategies of War by Robert Greene.
Greetings, most honored peeps, this is Jamie, and we're back with a follow-up to our last video titled, You Have Never Seen Your Real Enemy. That video was supposed to be just a one-off op-ed as a warm-up to our new series, The Awake Mind Reports. The Awake Mind Reports will be a way for a producer to comment on current events from an awake mind perspective. But since your response to our last video was so damn cool, and thank you for that, by the way, our producer thought, why stop with just this one video? Since our budding channel is doing a sort of content pivot anyway, let's keep it moving. So this is episode 2, How to Win Your War. Because make no mistake about it, you are at war. On one side you have your slow but assured degradation, and on the other side, you have your potential quest for self-development. Now let's be clear from the start. The degradation is a natural occurrence. This is not a situation where you're up against some grand conspiracy. And we are not saying that conspiracies don't exist. No, quite the opposite. But those individuals are simply taking advantage of known principles of existence. Their power, if that's what you want to call it, is derived from their unfiltered comprehension of the universe around them. And yet, the power brokers of the planet are still under the law of self-degradation or self-development, and there's just no escaping that. It must be dealt with. Now, let's take it a step further. Because when we say degradation, what we really mean is nature. What we are saying is nature is not necessarily your friend. She's not your direct enemy either. The cold hard truth is, she really doesn't give a shit about you like that. So if the default settings are geared toward death and decay, and the majority of humanity is okay with that, what are we to do? Answer, we declare war, a guerrilla war, on mass reality. And we win the war. Notice, we didn't say anything about fighting a war. We are only focused on winning the war. So now is the time when we move into the bending of reality. But hold on, because we're going to come at this from an entirely different perspective than most imagination creates reality videos. And with all due respect to all the people in that space, we think that their premise is flawed. And this is not the video to get into the weeds of those flaws. But for our purposes here, we'll go back to what we said in the last video, which is that in one way or another, you've been in competition your entire life. War and warring is ingrained in our psyche, so why fight against it? Instead, it's far more easier to lean into what you already know and embrace the warrior spirit. This means we don't just do some visualizations or a Neville Goddard states akin to sleep and say all done. Imagination creates reality, right? So nothing else is required. No, that's not good enough anymore. Nor is a 30-day mental diet powerful enough. Back in the 1940s, 50s, and 60s, those tactics could and did work. Even into the 80s, it was easier because, believe it or not, television stations had the dignity of shutting down for the night. But once the personal computer, video games, and King Internet came online, the situation changed. It's not that the tactics are dated. It's just that they can't compete against Twitter, or Snapchat, or this beast called YouTube. The Internet of Things cannot be ignored. And why is that? Because it never stops. It never shuts off. And we as a species are addicted to it. Worldwide. And that's just what it is. The Internet situation would not be such a problem if the Internet was truly neutral. But it's anything except that. Please understand, the Internet reflects humanity, like a synthetic mass consciousness. And this synthetic consciousness is now in complete control of most of the world. And the theme of this consciousness is mass chaos. Wars and rumors of wars, death, destruction, and decay, with a large amount of greed and sexuality, just to keep you going. And if that's not enough, you can spice it up with social media battles and useless debates about entertainment, movies, and sports. None of this is harmful on its own, perhaps a waste of time. But the harm is that there is so much overstimulation that you are drowning out the voice of the inner self. You probably wouldn't even know what it sounds like by now. And if by chance you did hear it, it most likely startled the hell out of you. And this is where your first battle must begin. It's the battle for your attention, your major malfunction, is that you have an avalanche of daily soul-crushing, temper-triggering, depression-deepening content flying at you at the speed of an internet connection. And you like it. There's no need to hide that fact. You're watching us on YouTube after all, and our content is about as obscure as it gets. Seriously, you got to be pretty darn deep off in the woods before you run across our little forest over here. So it seems we're all in the thick of it, our producer included. This is why the fight must start with your attention. You have to somehow get a foothold on some time that does not belong to anyone but you, and in that time fully immerse yourself in yourself. If you meditate, that's fine, but this is a bit different. In the Seth material, it's called finding your feeling tones. That's the first half of your time. The second half needs to be doing some kind of energy work, be it yoga, tai chi, or walking with some kind of instrumental music playing in your earbuds. Our producer is partial to Qigong. Actually, that's an understatement. The man is in love with it. Even Reiki, if done daily, will do quite nicely, because what you're doing is 1, making mental space with your self-immersion, and 2, you're cultivating the energy to keep you moving. With your energy work, you have to make the space to do and be something else. Then, you have to defend that space from nature, also called degradation, and society, which at the end of the day are just crabs wanting to pull you back down into the bucket of nature. This sounds like a lot of work, and we're just at the beginning. But is it a lot of work? That depends on 1, what you're comparing it with, and 2, what's the payoff? The comparison is with your current life and whatever that trajectory is. If you're happy with it, that's great. Just let nature run its natural course. For some people, this is all they want or need, and you know what? If you lived a happy and full life, and went out with your spouse, kids and grandkids by your side, that, ladies and gentlemen, is a damn good life. But how many people actually actualize that life path? Not many, and not you if you're still watching us now. So what about the payoff? What do you get for your efforts? You get the chance to renew your mind, and this is a must if you want to bend your reality. Remember how I said that the normal reality bending tactics are flawed? Well, a major part of their flaw is that they fail to realize how secular, atheistic, and dead most people's minds are. For example, when Neville Goddard was at his peak as a metaphysical teacher, people still believed in God. Most folks in the United States would classify themselves as Christian, for better or worse. The particular religion is not the point, though. The point was people still believed in something beyond the scientific. And in that mental garden, you could plant seeds in the mind and let them grow with minimum effort. But not anymore. Scientific rationalism has murdered art, philosophy, and religion. Then they put your mind in little boxes called materialism and reductionism. Then they told you that they should be the only ones telling you what to think. You can't even do so-called empirical tests for yourself because it's not scientific enough. You should wait for the results of our next study, and we will tell you what you should be thinking. So if you are only allowed to think in a certain way with specific parameters, how in the hell are you supposed to transcend beyond your current reality? The obvious answer is you can't. So we have to break out of that cycle. We have to make room for the inner mind to connect and communicate. We have to allow ourselves to listen to ourselves again. Then we can begin to create. Then we can use the hypnagogic state to bend reality. But you have to have the room and energy to make it work. Now, some of you may be wondering about something right now, because we have a lot of content on our channel about reality bending. And Locke has been pretty upfront about your ability to do it, because you can. But do you know what usually happens with that?
I'll tell you what happens. Everybody wants to get laid and peed right. Right. And then later on, whatever is best for the kids. But all of that, as cool as it is, you still follow the nature path, but you gotta start somewhere. And it's true, following down our path is much easier when you're paid in full and your bed is warm because someone you give a damn about is laying there next to you. These are wonderful things. Still, it's the path of nature. But you are a soul. Never forget that.
And being a soul is beyond the earth life situation we're all riding through. Now, we are not implying that you quit your life and go off to live with some monks and do that whole trip. That's not the answer either. What we are talking about is having the mental freedom and energy to do something with the rest of your life that is tailored for you. And you can only get that from the inner self. But how can you hear your inner voice if you're always plugged into the Internet of Things? Not a snowball's chance in hell, especially when we're all hooked on it like drugs. This is why you need daily time for yourself. This is why you need energy work. And you need a way to balance all the emotional energy floating around you too. And social media and websites designed to trigger the worst of our human feelings. These are agents of distraction, and it doesn't matter if all most of them want is the top spot on page 1 of Google. They are just as bad as the old school "if it bleeds, it leads" mentality of the local news stations. And now we have the metaverse coming online, and artificial intelligence to boot. Neither of these technologies on their own is bad. In fact, our producer uses artificial intelligence on a daily basis. And he also has a VR headset. And we can see some great benefits in the virtual worlds, especially as training for out-of-body experiences and lucid dreams. And hell, it's just fun to play with. But we know that's not how the rest of the world will use the tech, because we know that they are all obedient players in a cosmic game, and that game has its program or script if you prefer, and it's running that program no matter what. Just like the internet, nature never shuts off. So our response is to work as if our life depends on it, which is why we started this video with a quote from the 33 Strategies of War by Robert Greene. And in the book he calls this the death ground strategy, because like Hernan Cortez landing in Veracruz, Mexico, you burn your ships and the only path of retreat. So now, you have no choice. Either win or perish. We told you this was war, and damn it, we mean it. The only way to overcome the Internet of Things and the coming tsunami of artificial intelligence and the metaverse matrix is to change the game completely. First, master yourself. Then find your niche in the metaverse and master that. And you gain mastery over self by plugging into the inner self. And then the inner self will lead you to the right path of self-development that works for you. And we cannot overstress that when we say personal development, we are not talking about losing weight, or taking up a hobby, or even taking some online training, or going back to a brick-and-mortar school, God help you. No, some of these things may be a part of the path you will walk, but you are a timeless, eternal soul. You own no one. You are not here to save anyone. And the earth does not need your help. The only thing you need to do here is to expand your being and grow back into the godling you already are, but now with the added benefit of going through the mill. That's what they call life on Earth, also known as the time-space illusion. They call it the mill, like a grinding mill. Not too pleasant, is it? Heck, even Neville Goddard called it the blows. That's right, all you Neville fanatics. Goddard also recognized that this place can be as tough as a $2 steak. But it's still a time-space illusion. Although we prefer the term hologram, we think it fits better. And yes, the hologram is interactive. So if I kick you in the balls, it's going to hurt. That's all a part of the game. So you have a choice. You don't have free will, but you do have a choice. And we choose the path of self-development. We choose to focus on our eternity first, and the earth life second. And that's our wish for all of you, to make your eternity an everyday reality for you, not just when you have a vivid dream, or an ultra-deep meditation, or any of the other interesting metaphysical things that can happen to a person. That's all well and good, but the point is to relink to your inner self, and to do it like your life depends on it, because it's the only way to break through the synthetic meta-reality that's slowly enveloping humanity. Thank you for watching the second installment, and before we drop part 3, be on the lookout for 1 or 2 other videos that will hopefully extend on the theme we are trying to convey here. And in the meantime, self-love is the best love.